Welcome to Field Transfers, the glue that holds BC together. Hey, I'm Eric, and in this video I want to talk about field transfers. Field transfers is a very, very important thing that has changed greatly over the years, and I get a lot of questions that this actually still confuses some people. And I thought, okay, let me do a video solely on the topic of field transfers. And if you're still not sure about what I'm actually talking about, let me show you. So here's BC, and I am on a sales order. And if I select a customer in this case, let's actually hit show more. See if we can get a customer. This BC is very slow for some reason. Come on, BC. So I get a customer. And what happened here was that fields were transferred from the customer card to the sales header. Like the address, the city, province, in Canada, postcode, also known as postal code or zip code or stuff like that, email and contact. So there's a bunch of fields that are sitting on the customer card that are transferred to the sales header because of us putting in a customer number. The same thing if I go down here and then I select an item. It's very interesting that my Docker is super slow today. I select an item, and we get a transfer because we get the item name. We might get the unit of measure and the unit price and stuff like that. So again, a field transfer is happening from the item card to the sales line. And actually, what you didn't see is that there's also a field transfer happening as soon as I create a new line here. There's a field transfer that's happening from the sales header to the sales line because there are certain fields that are on the sales header that needs to be replicated onto the line. So when I then go and ship and invoice this guy, let's see how slow this is. This is very, very slow. Very, very interesting. I think we can manage. That leaves me more time to explain. So now we get tons of stuff. Tons of stuff is happening. So we got a posted invoice. So if we look at a posted invoice, we can see that, in a minute, come on, we can see that, and we don't want the fancy tour here. I got it. We're now on table 112, the posted sales header, and we can see that a bunch of fields are copied from the sales order header. And the same thing goes with the 113, the posted sales invoice line, whatever it's called, sales invoice line, I think is the correct table name. Well, the values we had from table 37 sales lines are transferred here. But that is not all that's happening, because we also have whatever it's called find entries now. That's the one I'm looking for. So those were field transfer, but we also got GL entries, and some fields are transferred from the sales header to the GL entries. Some fields are transferred from the sales line to GL entries, but actually they are not. There's a field transfer happening from the sales header or sales line to a general journal line, and then when the general journal is posting, there's a field transfer happening from the general journal line to the GL entry. And the same thing goes with all the others here. So throughout a simple simple operation as creating a sales order and posting it, we have a abundant of field transfers happening. So values are getting copied and shuffled around the system by different means. And why is this interesting? This is interesting because what if you want to create a value somewhere and get that transferred all the way? What you need to figure out is what is the route of information the data will take, and how do you move your fields along with it. And actually, I just want to show something. This used to be way more simple than it is now. Here is Navision version 3.56 from mid-90s. And if I go to the Object Designer, if you haven't seen the video on this version, I have a long video where I go through all the details of this old version. You can find it somewhere below, somewhere. Click on subscribe, then go to the channel and find this one. I call this the grandfather of Business Central. Anyway, here it's called files, but that's tables. So if I find sales lines, that's a good example. You can see that there's actually up here, there's an option on the table called field transfer. And this is put into system. So here you can say, okay, if I'm going from sales header, so we talked about stuff that were on the sales header that needs to be copied to a sales line. We have a list here saying client number, delivery date, department code, project code, job number, location code, and price group. Those fields are copied from the header to the line. If we want to go to something else, you see, from product, aka item, well, when we enter item number, well, number becomes number, booking group becomes booking group, discount quantity discount code becomes sales quantity discount code, text become name, text 2 become name 2, unit, and so on. So this was something that unfortunately got lost in the translation, the evolution of BC. But it was really cool in this version to have this added as an entity. So in case I wanted to, transfer another field, I could simply go and say, okay, I want unit to be a constant or a field, and that needs to be the, well, there's not a unit up here, so this was sales header to sales line. But you get the idea that in one place we can define all the flow. So whenever you in code wanted to say, okay, I want to transfer from this to this, I could just use the transfer fields, and it will use the list here. We lost this ability, unfortunately. So that's it for the history lesson. Now we're back in BC where we are today. So how is this accomplished today? It's accomplished in two ways. The first one is that we do have a function called transfer fields. Transfer fields is a record. You say whatever destination rec.transfer fields, and then you're passing in a from record, and copies all matching fields in one record to another record. So this is pretty sparse in what actually takes place here. There's a parameter, so you can say whether you want to init primary key fields or not. That's mostly used when you're copying within the same table to make sure that you're not getting the exact same record unless you want to. So let's take a look at what Microsoft are actually doing. So if we go with the example from just a moment ago, the sales order. Let's take a look at table 37, the sales line. Oh, we can actually start at the customer. Let's start at the customer. Table 36. So what we want to look at is the sell to customer number, and we want to look at unvalidate. So what is happening when this one is, when you enter a customer number, and blah 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 blah. All this is not important. Well, some of it actually is. Sorry, I got a. So we can see that there's a function here called copy sell to customer address fields from customer. So that is kind of looks like something that we need to take into consideration. I think that's the most important one. So let's go look at this one. So this one you can see is a sell to customer name is equal customer name, sell to customer name 2 is equal customer name 2. And you can see here that we have some events. On after copy sell to customer address fields from customer. Meaning that if we want to add a field transfer, let's keep this in mind, and then let's add in a new file in our small app here called field transfers AL code units. That's probably a good number. Field transfers. What we want to do now is actually do a event subscriber, and we want to subscribe to a table, and tables are called database, and it's called sales line. And we just, let's see if we can, let's get rid of all this and just do true. Can we remember the name of it? On copy sell to, or on after copy sell to. So on after copy. Hang on, sales line. Somebody correct me. Sales header. Let's try sales header instead. On after copy from. On after copy sell to customer address fields from customer. Wow. On after copy sell to address fields from customer. That's the one we want to play with. So now we can see that we don't really care about the field number. We do care about the sales header, and we do care about the customer. So those two. So now we have an option to say, okay, sales header dot, and this really doesn't matter. Let's just find a random. Sell to email is sell to customer dot. Let's pretend that we created ourselves a new email address, and that's the one we want to transfer to the sales header, or we added a new field in both tables. Then this is what we need to do. So that's one way of doing this. There's another way, depending on circumstances. We could also do a table extension. Sales header extends sales header. And then we could go for, let's go for fields. Then we'll do a modify sell to customer number. And now we can do a trigger here on after validate. So when after a customer has been validated, we could go and say, okay, let's create a customer record, and then we can do customer get sell to, oh, did that break? Sell to customer number. So we got the customer, and then we could go and say, okay, rec.email sell to email equal customer email. So these two things, oops, wow, that was strange scrolling. These two things more or less, so this line and this line will end up doing kind of the same thing. So these are two different approaches. And what approach should you use? That really depends on circumstances. So in this case, so let's actually try another one. So let's go to, oh, I didn't see that coming. There we go. Let's go back. Oh, that's too much going back. Base app, come on, baby. So let's go to table 37 sales line. So we also validated an item number in the number field. So how is that solved? Well, let's find the number field. So this is here, and there's some funky formatting going on with this. We'll ignore that. That could be another video. But anyway, here's on validate on the number field. And blah, blah, blah. Again, stuff we don't really care about right now. At some point, here it is. Case type, because number field on the sales line can be a lot of stuff. But in this case, we have set type to item. So we will go into the case statement and we'll find copy from item. So what happens here? Well, let's see. We get an item on before, so we do have an event on copy from item after check, and then we can see the pattern that we have seen. We also saw with the customer. So description equal item description, description 2 equal description 2. So, you know, in reality, exactly what we had here. So we have a list, and at some point we have a on after copy from item, which is where we would add additional fields. But what if we wanted to do it in a table extension instead? So if we go back to our field transfers here, so what if we want this approach? Well, then you gotta replicate some of the things that happens. So if we do a table extension again here, and we say sales line extend sales line, there we go. We are in fields and we want to modify the number field. So we'll add another trigger to, wow, that's not what I wanted to do. So on, see, so we have two options: on before validate or on after validate. And in this case, on before validate can only be used if we wanted to add additional checks. There's no field transfer options here because that's too early. So we have to be on after validate. So whenever BC is done with whatever happens, and potentially other extensions might also be subscribing, or so this is not really subscribing. This is well, it's kind of subscribing. I'm actually not sure. You know, the interdependencies between events and triggers in extensions. Who wins? Maybe we should do a video on that at some point. let me know in the comments below if that's something that could be interesting to investigate. But in this case, we would have to start by saying, okay, case type of, right? Because, and then we'll do type item, because this one will call on all lines. So we have to replicate. Okay, can I go back to this one? Maybe I can't. Let's see. The easiest way is just search for this one and go back up. Perhaps not. There we are. So now we have to replicate this guy, which is what we're doing here. And now we can then go and say, okay, I will grab my item as an item, and then I can go and say item.get from the number field, and I can do my rec.field equal item.another field transfer thing. And if type was, if type was resource, I would have to do the same thing here. So I would now have to go and say begin end and resource.get number, because now number has a resource. And then I can say rec field is equal a resource dot whatever field we're transferring. And you may notice that now we're 20 minutes into the video and I have not talked or shown anything about the transfer field methods. Because that one will only work when it's a matching field, and a matching field means that it has to have the same number, the same name, the same type, and there has to be fields that are the same. Which, if we go back into the base app, let's see if we can find where Microsoft are using the transfer fields function. So let's go into code units and find code unit 80, because that's the one that's responsible for most of the invoice posting. So we can search for transfer fields. And what are they using? So let's see where they're using that one. So they're using salesline.transfer fields in case they want to make a copy into a temporary one. So that makes good sense. Which means that if you added a field, that field will also get transferred into whatever they're doing with that temporary table. So here we have another interesting thing, because this is not actually transfer fields. You can see that this is a item entry relation, and there is a transfer field method. So it's cheating. And here we got the temporary assembly header copied to a assembly header. Here's a good one. Here's a very, very good one. So sales shipment header dot transfer fields from sales header, meaning that if we have the same field on the sales shipment header as we have on the sales header, it will get transferred. So if we were to, let's do this guy and then say new fields, AL. So we do a table extension of, and we cannot do that because I already had that in here. So somewhere we had, so if we added a field here, my field, that's an integer. I added that to sales. If I then do a table extension on the sales, come on, sales, we can do that. Yeah, that's the name. Sorry, I'm extend. Here we go. Sales shipment. Wow. sales shipment header. There we go. That took way too long. So if I simply do the exact same thing here, so now I'm adding the exact same field in the sales header and in the sales shipment header. Then where were we? We were here. Then when they are creating a shipment header, your field will get copied from the sales header to the sales shipment header. Same goes for let's find there's even still a I don't know if events name of event starts to be longer than the width of my screen, then I think they maybe have overdone it. On insert shipment header, on after transfer fields to sales shipment header. Very descriptive. It's like a manual in a name. Anyway, sorry. So we have a transfer field here. The same thing happens. This is a return receipt. This is the sales invoice header, sales credit memo header. So if your purpose is to get a field that is transferred to all those, you just need to follow this pattern. Make sure you add the same field to the different tables. Then your value will be transferred. And now we're in purchase receipt and stuff like that. So you can see and this is because Microsoft is still using with even in 18.3. So they are behind on fixing that piece. Anyway, so this is purchase receipt line dot transfer field from a purchase order line. So in a lot of places where you have almost the same record as you have the draft part and you have the posted part, and they look almost the same, then in most cases transfer fields are used. But you cannot rely on that. If we go to let's go to code unit 12, general journal post line, and look for transfer fields. This is a buffer, this is a buffer, this is a buffer. Customer ledger entries from customer ledger entry something else. So we don't really see the transfer from journal to post entry here. That's done in code. Somewhere in here there's a function copying from transferring fields. Anyway, I think I have used up my allotted time to talk over on this topic. So let's recap. When you're transferring data around the system, you need to piggyback on the different field transfer approaches, and you need to either use the transfer fields, that the same field in multiple tables whenever Microsoft is actually using the transfer fields command, or you need to go and either subscribe to an event where you can on after copy from to something where you can transfer your field, or you need to go use the modify and then recreate the on after validate to actually do what you need to do after Microsoft is done with their stuff, and potentially other extensions are done with their stuff. Anyway, that's the video on field transfers. If you have any questions, let me know in comments below. Otherwise, I will see you in the next video. Take care.